And now, it's time for Talkin' New York Sports with Billy C. and Brooklyn Mike, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network of programming. And here's your hosts, Billy C. and Brooklyn Mike.
We're back. We're coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for Talkin' New York Sports with Billy C and Brooklyn Mike. And speaking of Brooklyn Mike, he joins me right now. What's up, brother?
Good morning, brother. I almost didn't recognize the voice, but okay, it's you. All right, it's coming back to me.
I almost forgot the intro. I was like, it's been a while, and apologize to all the viewers and listeners out there. We both had some things going on, but and I kind of miss you, Mike. I kind of miss you, and we didn't get to, at least I didn't get to brag anymore about the Super Bowl and our football season, which ended. But we'll get to that in a little bit. But we got some good stuff going on right now in the world of sports, even though traditionally this is like that lame duck period, at least for me.
Yeah, traditionally, you're right. It is the lame duck period, but there is just so much going on. It's this far after the Super Bowl, and we still have so much football to talk about, which is amazing. Especially, us being Jet fans. That's a story that's never going to end. But we'll get into that later on as well.
Yeah, there's so many sidelines there with that, and we'll, like you said, we'll get into that a little bit. Let's kick it off with some basketball. Let's talk about the NBA. I've been following our Nets, and they just can't seem to get even with the damn Knicks. I mean, they get so close, and then they lose like they lost last night. Going into today, they're 3 games out. The Knicks, on the other hand, they go into a slump. And, the Nets can't capitalize, but then the Knicks come back and win. I thought the other night they were primed to lose against, Golden State, and they ended up pulling that game out, and they won again last night. What's going on with them?
They're in a 3-game win streak, but I think that's all going to end tomorrow when they play the Miami Heat, even though they have beaten the Miami Heat twice this year, and one time actually in Miami without Carmelo. But, the way Miami's playing right now, I mean, that's just the team to beat in the Eastern Conference. Listen, the Knicks, they're just not playing defense like they were playing earlier in the season. The only defender on that team is Tyson Chandler. After that, it's just they're hopeless when it comes to defense. And, we talked about this in the beginning of the year, that age can be a factor, and you're seeing that now. That age is a factor. Mike Woodson just benched Jason Kidd. He's no longer the starter, and which I think is a good thing because he's going to be 40 years old this month, and he just needs to rest. And you kind of want him as fresh as possible come playoff time. So I think that's a really good move. And as far as the Nets, they just can't. They can't seem to win at home. You figure that's the place to win. You protect your house, so to speak, and they've lost their last 3 at home. Don't know what's going on. They're just very inconsistent. Deron Williams is playing very well of late, but they just can't seem to get it together, and that's what they need to do is win at home.
Yeah, and before I talk about that, let's just jump back to your comment about the Knicks and the age. Rasheed Wallace is now sidelined. He needs surgery, and I think that just hits home what you just said about the age. He's 38 years old. I agree with you with the move for Jason Kidd. I mean, let's remember he was brought here as a bench player, and he was kind of thrown in and playing more minutes than I think he anticipated and everyone else. And I thought for the most part he was doing a good job, so. I think you're right. I think the Knicks forget about just their win streak being snapped by the Heat, but I think the Knicks are going to start to overall show their age, and you're going to start hearing some complaints. Everybody doesn't say a word, and everyone's happy when you're winning. And better than anyone, when you start losing, that's when fingers start getting pointed, and then comments start flowing, and I'm just wondering if some of these players that we anticipated to be trouble, within the team itself, is going to start to become trouble, even though they haven't been up to this point.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly very possible. there's bound to be finger pointing if this team does not perform well. And also, this team, keep in mind, you can get into this team. You can get under their skin, which is been proven before, especially with a guy like Carmelo, which we all seen with the Kevin Garnett incident in Boston. This team can be rattled, and they come up against a team like Indiana, a big physical team in the playoffs. That's what's going to happen to this team. This could be another one and done year for the Knicks, even though they are a better team than last year. But they lost in the first round to Miami in 5 last year, and it could be the same thing this year. They could be one and done if they don't get it together, and not mentally. We're not just talking the age. We're talking mentally, like you just said. They need to be mentally focused, and you just don't see it consistently right now. Well, I mean, the 3 games they won, poorer teams, but let's see what happens when we start playing teams with winning records.
Yeah, and that's a great segue to jump back to the Nets, because they were a team that clearly was dominating the lesser quality, and I hate to say that in pro sports because they're all better than us, but the lesser quality teams they were beating, and they were somewhat struggling with the other teams. Well, they kind of turned that corner a little bit, and then they fell back, just like you're mentioning. They're losing at home now, which was where what was their home win streak earlier in the season? I think they were in double digits, weren't they, at home?
Yeah, they were at one point. I mean, they've lost their last 3 at home, so they're 20-13. So they were 20-10, and they even had a better record. But they were like 20 in single digits at one point. That's how good they were at home. But that's all come to an end.
Yeah,
for some reason.
And you wonder about the short fuse and short rope that the owner clearly has shown us in the past with the Nets. He wants a winning team, and he wants it now. And even when they lose a couple in a row, there starts to be rumblings coming from his mouth.
Yeah, but I don't think in this situation, when Avery Johnson was there, don't forget this guy was the coach of the month. In November and then fired in December, and that's because the team basically quit on him, especially Deron Williams, making comments like I didn't play this way when I was with my other team, and I'm not crazy about the system. And once the star player, especially the NBA, starts chirping like that, the coach's history. PJ has done a very good job. I don't hear any whisperings like the team does not want to play for him. They're just not playing that well at home. So I don't think. It's a thing with the coach. I think PJ is safe for the year, and the guys like Wallace, they have to step up. I mean, your big 3 should be okay, meaning Williams, Lopez, and Johnson, but you need a guy like Gerald Wallace to really step up, and he has been doing it lately.
The big thing you always wonder about PJ is if somebody's going to grab him by the throat, right?
Who was that? Latrell Sprewell,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
that's what he's famous for.
I know.
But PJ's, he's always been a solid coach.
No, I know.
There's very few Phil Jacksons out there, So, but PJ has always been, one of the top coaches in the league. So
honestly, I'm
sorry.
I was just going to say, just to keep that thought. I never really thought that I'd see him as an assistant again. And him being an assistant coach for the Nets, and then now being elevated, of course, to the head coach. I think he's going to end up with staying there for a while. I think he deserves it. I think he's a head coach, no doubt about it, in the NBA.
Yeah, I do too. And sometimes there's only so much you can work with. If your team is not performing well, it's not necessarily. I don't believe the coach's fault all the time. You're gonna have to reevaluate talent after the year. The same old stuff that each team goes through at the end of the season. But I think PJ, like I said, he's at least won himself a job this year. I don't think he has to look over his shoulder. He's not the interim coach. He is the coach of that team, and we'll see what happens next year.
Yeah, no doubt about that, and I hope he stays. I've always liked him, and plus, whenever there's a Paisan involved, I always go for him. Hey, let's touch a little bit on the Daytona 500 NASCAR. I try to get into it. a little bit. I liked cars. There's no question about it. I love racing. I love going to live races. It's just very hard for me to watch it on television because it's just, nothing against NASCAR, but it's the same thing, man. You're watching these guys going around the track. I can't even follow which cars they're driving at such high speeds. But this year, I thought that with Danica Patrick, finishing in the top 10, I found myself tuning in just to see how she was doing. Because, I think she brings a lot. And some of the stuff that was leading up to the Daytona 500 with the infusion of a lot of young female fans that are looking to get Danica's autograph and stuff like that. Even fellow race car drivers were bringing their young kids to meet her. So I think that brings a lot to the product. And then to have her finish really in the top 10, which I think was a victory of sorts. She was in the top 10 pretty much from for most of the race. I know I think at one time she was back as high as number 20, but I thought she did well, and it was definitely exciting in the last two laps with your boy Johnson coming out ahead, winning.
Yeah, she. Let's talk about Dan. Like you said, she's great for the sport. Don't forget, this is only her second year with NASCAR. She started off driving the Indy cars. So, I mean, she's really come leaps and bounds from her rookie season. She finished 8th, which is historic. She actually won the pole.
Yeah, she did win the pole. That's right.
Yeah, she won the pole the day before. I mean, she's very, very talented. I mean, I've actually worked with her. I work with all these drivers, and they're nice people. It's not my sport either. I think what they do is amazing. When you look at it, I mean, they're like inches apart going 190 miles an hour. I mean, I get nervous when I go over 85 on a highway, So what these guys do, I think it's really incredible. They're very talented. It's just obviously it's not my thing either. I don't get into it. But yeah, my boy Jimmy Johnson, he's actually my favorite driver that I work with. He's just a cool guy, I was doing a commercial with him about a month ago, and I have a shirt that says something that every Met fan should know. And on the back, it says METS, and it says, my entire team sucks.
Nice. That's really good. And you have the balls to call yourself a Mets fan. And
you know what? That's what he said. He comes to me, and he says, Mike, because you're a Yankee fan? And I says, no, I'm an honest Mets fan. He goes, oh, okay. So, yeah, I'm an honest Mets fan. And I told him that, and he was laughing.
You know what I love about these guys? You make a good point. And by the way, I have a really tight relationship with, all police officers. And, you giving away that when you hit 85 on the highways, so for all you coppers out there, keep an eye on Brooklyn Mike. He's driving like a maniac out there, But, what's amazing, and you make a great point, these guys are racing, and gals are racing inches away from each other. And then they have the nerve to get so pissed off when one of the other drivers makes a mistake and it causes a 4, 5, 6 car pileup like we saw in the Daytona 500. And they're like, I was trying to get in and he wouldn't let me in. And it's like you're right. It's the way I am on the highway.
Yeah, I don't quite understand the nuances of the sport. I mean, I know that they work in teams and they'll push each other along to actually bump each other into the lead and stuff. It's really pretty amazing. Like I said, what they do. But yeah, somebody does something. It's like what it reminds me of when you sit down at the blackjack table, right? And you're sitting down, you got 4 or 5 people around you, and you hit on 15. People look at you like, why are you doing that? That could have been my card.
That's
what it's like.
That's why
people get pissed off at you.
That's why I don't play blackjack anymore. Because you're relying on everyone else around you, and that's a good comparison. That's for sure. Yeah, I don't know, man. There was the race. Like I said, I tuned into it. It was exciting. There were a couple of major crashes, and towards the end there, in the last dozen laps or so, Toyota, who had, I believe, at one point the first 5 cars, lost two major injuries. I was going to say major blows to those teams, but and two of them were on the same team. I think one lost an engine and one lost a tranny, and they're in the pit crew. They're in the pit stop, and the guy's going, "Well, we're just making sure because if it's an engine, no problem, we got another one. But if it's a tranny, we're out of the race." You know what I'm saying? Like, these guys swap engines out like you and I change socks.
It's quite amazing how fast these guys actually change tires, swap. I mean, it's really something to watch. It's pretty incredible. I mean, if I have to change a tire, I said, you know what? I'd rather call AAA, let them do it.
Exactly.
And these guys do it in a matter of like 6 seconds.
Exactly.
It's really incredible. But the crash you actually talking about, I think that happened like on Saturday. There was like a nationwide series, and the guy that actually caused the crash was Kyle Larson. And the horrible thing about it is that like 28 people in the stands were hurt.
I know about that crash, and now they're collectively trying to. The fans that were injured are trying to do a lawsuit. But no, there were some serious accidents not serious where the fans got hurt, but where they knocked vehicles out towards the. Listen, that like I said, and I'll be the first to admit, it's very hard for me to watch. NASCAR or any racing on television. It's sort of like golf to me. I just can't watch it on television. I don't mind playing it, or I don't mind going to it live. I mean, hey, there's nothing like going to a live, stock car on the mud tracks. I mean, I love that. It's fun. But watching it on TV. And one thing I will add before we move on is that have you noticed the way broadcasts are, and it's not just for racing, but it's for football and baseball and even basketball. It's almost like the way you play the computer games. They're giving you those pictures, those views, and if they didn't give you the little thing where they have a line and then who that guy is in number 3 spot, you'd have a hard time recognizing because the cars. From the distance, from those camera distances and the color combinations, sometimes look the same.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have a wider view because of the speed, and they'll circle the car and it'll say Earnhardt or Johnson, and you'll that's the way you follow them. I mean, you have to do that. I mean, it's kind of like how they do well, I know we don't watch too much hockey, but there was a point when they used to actually circle the puck, and but I mean that's ridiculous. But they have to do that in NASCAR because when it's a wider view, people can't always tell the number of the car. So it actually works. But when you get down low, I've actually seen them going around a track at that speed. It's pretty scary. I mean, I was asked if I wanted to ride along with somebody going 185 miles, or do I want to actually get in the car and drive it. And I said nay to both.
See, I would love to drive one. I went to a Grand Prix race one time up in Montreal, and these guys are traveling well over 200 miles an hour, and I'm in the stands, and we had what the person I went with said. She said, "Oh, these are great seats," and they were, But here's the problem: you ended up watching it on the television monitors that were there because. You couldn't see when those cars went by you, literally at 250 miles an hour. They were a flash. You got to see what color it was. You had no idea which guy it was, And I know NASCAR doesn't travel as quickly, but it's similar, man, and it's tough. That's why I like the good old fashioned. Give me an oval mud track that I have to keep my hand over my beer so it doesn't get filled with dirt, and I'm having a good time, So but I'm glad. I'm glad it's as popular as it is, and hey, for my main sport of boxing, that NASCAR leaves them in the dust, no pun intended, in terms of fan following. I mean, it's just unbelievable, and the sponsorships, just crazy stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, I wish it wasn't that way because I'm a huge boxing fan as well, but unfortunately it is. But I mean, it's good. It's great for the economy. It's great for especially where I am with all the commercials that we do for the sport. So it keeps a lot of people employed too, which is a cool thing nowadays.
And another thing I notice about some of those high profile tracks is they're not exactly baby butt smooth, the blacktop on some of those tracks, and that adds a little excitement to it when they're bouncing around turn number 6 that's got the pothole in it, so, talk about freeway emulation. But, hey, speaking of boxing, Floyd Mayweather Jr., I know he's your idol, but
oh, stop.
I can't stand him.
Don't even joke.
But don't even joke. He finally made it official a couple weeks ago that he is going to fight Robert "The Ghost" Guerrero May 4th. But some other stuff that's happened in the news that I wanted to get your thoughts on, and I'm going to throw all these questions at you at once. Number one, the fight itself. A lot of the Floyd fans don't think that Robert "The Ghost" Guerrero has a shot in hell of beating Floyd Mayweather. I think totally the opposite. I actually am respecting Floyd's decision on picking him. I think he's a tougher fight than another fighter that was mentioned, and that's Saul Alvarez. Part 2 of my question is, Saul Alvarez basically gave Floyd Mayweather an ultimatum and said, hey, if you don't sign to fight me, should we both win on May 4th, I'm not fighting on this card. And he ultimately jumped ship. He's fighting Austin Trout actually sooner than the Mayweather fight. And then, of course, my third part of the question jumps back to Mayweather signing the biggest boxing contract ever with Showtime. Many experts believe that Showtime's going to lose a ton of money. Some things that I found out about that contract that makes me kind of sick is that Floyd gets to pick all the opponents, and I'm having a feeling that, first of all, I don't think he's going to fight all 6 fights because I don't think he's going to get out with a win against Guerrero. But if he does, it's got me thinking that he's going to pick, 6 easy fights after, or 5 easy fights after Guerrero, and that's not what Legacy's about, in my opinion.
Well, all right, let's focus on that first. When has he not picked easy fights?
I agree.
Okay, so what's going to change? However, that being said, you mentioned on your show months ago that if he doesn't, you don't think he was going to pick Guerrero because Guerrero posed the biggest threat to Mayweather, and he did. So actually, he changed his ways for this fight.
Yeah, but that was my opinion. Like a lot of Floyd fans, diehard Floyd fans, and Team Mayweather feel that Guerrero isn't a challenge, which I think is a mistake.
You know what? I wrote you an email, and I still can't see it yet. I mean, I'm not fully into it yet. I haven't gone back and looked at tape at Guerrero. I mean, he's a solid fighter. I still think, Floyd has definitely lost a step, and that was evident in the Cotto fight because he got hit more in the Cotto fight than he's ever been hit in his life, and now he's even older. So I think Guerrero does have a chance, as far as, the age factor is definitely going to play in his favor. I mean, there was a point in the Cotto fight where Cotto actually landed a couple of jabs that would never have touched Floyd if he was 5-6 years younger. And Floyd actually acknowledged it by just smiling and shaking his head like, wow, he hit me with 2 jabs and I stood there and took him. So that's going to play a big factor is the age. As far as the skill sets, if Floyd still, the speed is it's going to be there. And, I still think that he's just, that much more gifted than Guerrero. I mean, I see Guerrero trying to make it a brawl, much the way that Ortiz tried to do, but obviously, without the headbutt. Listen, I want to see him lose. I mean, there's two people that watch Mayweather fights: those who love him and those who hate him. And I'm the second, like you, and I want to see him lose. But it's like I said, it's going to be. I don't see it yet. I mean, I know you do. I actually thought that Canelo would have given him a tougher fight. I think even Trout would give him a tougher fight because these guys are natural 154 fighters. Where Guerrero he actually jumped to 2 weight classes at one point.
Yeah, he jumped up to welterweight. He was actually a featherweight.
Right.
Then he moved to junior welter, then welter. And this fight will be contested at welterweight, 147 pound weight limit. The thing is that Robert "The Ghost" Guerrero showed me a lot in his last few fights. And, Selkirk Iden, he beat, who was a very aggressive, strong fighter. Nobody gave him a chance, and he beat him soundly. But when he fought in his last fight, when he fought Andre Berto in his last fight, he showed me that no way in hell is Floyd Mayweather going to hurt him. Because even on his worst day, Berto can hit substantially harder than Floyd. Now, with that said, I agree with what you started off with. As far as skill set, there is no comparison. Even at 36 years old, Floyd is oodles above Robert Dos Guerrero's skill set. However, and like I've been talking all week on the show, on the Talking Boxing with Billy C show, is that, some of the victories that Floyd has before the bell sounds, before that first bell sounds for round one, similar to guys like Mike Tyson used to beat the opponent. They were scared to death before they even got in the ring. All you got to do is watch Michael Spinks before he came out. I mean, he was a beaten man before they even taped up his hands and put the gloves on, And that was a victory. Floyd gets into fighters' heads at the press conferences. Plus, it's like a lotto. When you hit the lotto, when you get approved by Team Mayweather, you know that you're making more money than you've ever made. So there's a respect factor. And I said on the show earlier this week, hey, if Floyd wrote me a check for $1 million, I'd have a hard time hating the guy. It's just human nature. As much as I can't stand him, my attitude would change. And I'm just being honest. I would admit it. But Robert Dos Guerrero is not going to play those. He's not going to fall for that. Now, these are two things. If Robert Dos Guerrero goes into that fight and all of a sudden starts trying to outbox Floyd and being cautious and everything, I am going to be the first guy that cries fix, foul, everything. I'm going to be a sore loser about it, and I'm admitting it right now. But if Robert Dos Guerrero comes out and he puts that same game plan in place the way he did against Andre Berto, and he loses, I'm going to give Floyd all the credit in the world. But don't be surprised, Brooklyn Mike, if Floyd Mayweather, through the whole shenanigans leading up to this fight, ends up with some kind of freak hand injury or something like that to back out of the fight, because he's going to start questioning himself before the fight starts. This is my prediction.
You think actually Floyd would actually back out and come up with a phony injury?
Well, I think that let me put it this way: I wouldn't be surprised. I've also predicted that the Ghost is going to drop Floyd in this fight. Floyd's hitting the canvas now. Whether he loses the fight or not, that's another story. But Floyd will hit the canvas in this fight.
I don't agree with that. I think Floyd. I mean, he's one of the best defensive fighters. You
just said that. You just admitted that. You just admitted that Cotto hit him with a jab, and Cotto's not exactly a speed demon, so that right. that defense has to be eroding.
Well, it's definitely eroding. Obviously with age, your skills erode, but he's still one of the best defensive fighters. Period.
No doubt.
And, I mean, like he's Pernell Whitaker, he's Willie Pep. I mean, he's in that league. He does that shoulder roll better than anybody I've seen. And people have tried to use it all the time. But I went out on the limb and I said that, Manny would get knocked down by Marquez. I can't say that about Guerrero doing that to Mayweather. I think if it was a stronger puncher, and it's I might say that if it was like Canelo, he'd have a shot. But because this guy is not a natural 147 fighter. He's come up from featherweight. I think that had a lot to do with why Floyd picked him over Canelo or Trout, which I give those two guys a much better chance of beating Floyd than I do Guerrero. Guerrero's got to come out, like you said. He can't try to outbox him because that's not going to happen. But he's got to come out, like you said, like in the Berto fight, be very aggressive, which I think he will. I see this as Floyd just pot-shotting, and I think he's going to be moving a lot more. Where he wasn't moving as much in the Cotto fight. There were times where he stood toe-to-toe with Cotto, and you have to give the guy credit for that. And as much as I can't stand him, there were some times where he just stood there and fought. I see him backpedaling a little bit more in this fight because I think Guerrero is going to be a lot more aggressive than Cotto was.
And that's a huge key, and I'm gonna even take it a step further. Robert Dos Guerrero can cut the ring off better than Cotto, and Robert Dos Guerrero will work the body. When Cotto got Floyd against the ropes and in the corners and stuff, he made the biggest mistake, which cost him that fight. He started headhunting, and that's where Mayweather, his defense, where he just bends that head out a little bit and he doesn't get anything hit flush, that's where the ghost is going to be hitting his body. And then over time, he's going to slow Floyd down. And once Floyd's got to protect that body, that shoulder roll becomes non-effective. And I think he does have power enough to knock out Floyd, especially if you land flush. Listen, Floyd's never come back from adversity. He's never been busted up. He's never had to go to his corner and listen, because he's not going to listen to anybody. And I would not be surprised, and people are laughing at me, but I would not be surprised if this fight turns into the type of fight that Guerrero wants, in close fight, which it's going to really depend on the referee that they choose, and I'm sure Floyd is going to try and get a guy that is going to break him up as soon as they come close to each other. But if Guerrero can land body shots, I could see him systematically beating Floyd so bad that Floyd doesn't come out, quits on his stool. That's what I could see. But what do you think of the contract? You think Showtime is going to lose money?
I don't think they'll make money, but I don't know if they're going to lose a ton of money like people are saying. It's going to be – I tell you what, if he loses to Guerrero, that could only be great for Showtime.
Well, no, actually, no. That's where I think the clause. Now, nobody knows for sure what the contract states, but I think that the clause is in that contract, and a lot of people believe it, that should Floyd lose, that's his way out of the deal. And if Guerrero beats Floyd, Floyd gets out of that contract, because then the rematch would actually be the most highest sought-after fight in the history of boxing, and I would doubt very much that for the next 25 or even 50 years, a fight would gross as much as Floyd Mayweather, Robert the Ghost Guerrero rematch, if Floyd loses the first one. So, that's where I think Showtime is hoping doesn't happen. I hope they're thinking, we don't want him to lose, because that's when they lose the most, I think. But
why would Bro, why would they lose if he's under contract with them? And if maybe is there not a rematch clause in this contract?
No, there's a stipulation somewhere in this contract that Floyd can get out of it. There's a way, if he doesn't fulfill, like, in other words, if he loses, the general consensus is if he loses within these 6 fights in 30 months, he can get out of the deal. And because let's face it, whoever beats him, whether it's the Ghost or somebody else, the rematch is going to be the biggest demand since the original Pacquiao and Mayweather. So that's where I think Showtime needs to have Floyd win a couple of fights out of this deal before he walks away. I don't think he's going to go 6 fights. I really don't.
No, I mean, he fights less than once a year. So how is he going to fight 6 fights in 2.5 years?
It doesn't. It's crazy. A great article for you to check out, and I keep promoting this guy's article. I'm not even a fan of him. Ron Burgess from the Boston Herald wrote a great piece on it, and check it out. He points out some great stuff, and it's all. I believe what he writes. So anyway, you know me. I could talk about boxing all day long. Let's talk a little about some baseball. We got a season that I'm getting psyched for. I don't know why. But first, there was a rule change that I couldn't wait to talk to you about. Now, the third to first base fake pickoff is being considered a balk. What's your thoughts?
The third to first base is being considered a balk?
Yeah, the third time you fake to first.
Oh, the third time.
Yeah, the third time you fake to first base is considered a walk. I mean, a balk.
Is this because of the length of the games? Are they trying to shorten them so they tell them that you can't do it the third time? I mean, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, the way when they were originally starting to talk about it, they said there's a new rule in Major League Baseball where the fans are going to be happy about it, and then they released it a week later. That it was made official.
I don't understand the reasoning for it, unless it's a time issue.
Well, I never thought that they really cared about the length of a game, but I think it becomes redundant. When they're coming back and faking and nobody's doing anything. I think they're saying the third time they do that, they're going to call it a balk.
I think that's ridiculous. I mean, is it the third time with the same person at first base, or
Yeah.
the third time throughout the game?
No. The same batter, same runner on first.
Okay.
You know how they do. You know how sometimes they fake. They either throw it to first, really haphazardly, or they fake that throw to first, and they're trying to keep the runner at bay, but maybe they're just trying to do something else. Maybe they're trying to bore the batter. I don't know, man. It does get nerve-wracking watching these guys, but to make it a rule, I don't know, man. That just seems kind of strange to me.
It is strange, and I'm going to have to look into it more as far as the reasoning why. But there have been complaints about the length of games, and I think that might have something to do with it, just to chip away a little bit. It just doesn't make sense why they would do that. It's part of the game. It's strategy. It's making them flinch. When's he going to go? Is he going to go? I got my eye on you. I mean, it's just part of the game. I mean, it doesn't bother me. It never bothered me. If you told me, you were actually telling me now, did it ever bother you? No, it didn't. I don't get it.
Well, it's actually I think I described it wrong. I think I described it right the first time, and then I actually read my notes wrong. It's when they fake to third base. When they fake a pickoff at third and then turn around and throw it to first, that's what's a balk.
Okay. So then both runners would advance. So you can't do that at all?
You can't do it. Both runners would advance. In other words, you can't fake a throw to third as a pitcher. You can't fake the move to third and then spin around and throw it to first. I
think that's ridiculous.
Either
that
way,
makes no sense.
Fans are apparently they had a poll, and fans are happy about it. I don't even know how often it happens, to be honest with you. I mean, the pick off the third isn't exactly an easy throw.
Right. It's not. It's something that, I mean, you could probably count on one hand how many times you see it during the games that you watch during the season, right?
Well, you're not going to see it at all now.
It's just okay. I mean, it's just I'd like to know what the reasoning is for this rule change. It doesn't make sense to me.
I don't know. You're going to have to find out and let me know.
I'm gonna. I mean, because it just doesn't make sense. Why would they do something like that? But so be it.
What's your thoughts on Rockies' Todd Helton getting busted a couple of weeks back for a DUI? And then witnesses come forward, and they see that he said it wasn't true, and then some witnesses came forward and said he was hit the median and all this stuff. I mean, high-profile fighter. Baseball player. We've talked about how football players are totally stupid to get behind the wheel of a car when they have things in place. I'm sure that baseball must have something similar. I don't know for a fact. Do they?
Oh, as far as call up anytime and you can get a ride anywhere?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I know. Definitely it's in the NFL and the NBA. But you know what? Todd Helton makes oodles of money, and he's made oodles of money throughout his career. And if you can't afford a limo to take you home,
I know.
I mean, it's mind-boggling. I told you and I have discussed this umpteen times. If I had that much money, if I had the opportunity to make a phone call to take me from point A to point B, I would do that just to get milk.
I know.
I would never drive again. I can't stay. I don't like to drive, but you have to. But if I had that opportunity, I would do it all the time. And it's just it boggles the mind how these guys with so much money and so much they're spoiled. They're little babies, and yet they do something like this. It's crazy.
No, it's ridiculous. And speaking of ridiculous, I'm getting excited, but I probably shouldn't because it never works out, especially the last 20 some odd years. But the Yankees aren't looking too scary this year, and they really put all their eggs in Riviera's basket. He did throw. He has been throwing a little bit. They all are saying that. They like what they see and everything else. What's your thoughts, man?
Listen, he's 43, 44 years old, this guy. He's not a velocity pitcher. From what I've been reading and hearing, he's looking real good from his his rehab. And don't forget, it was not an arm issue. It was his ankle. It was a freak accident. Mariano, to warm up before games, for years he would shag fly balls in the outfield, and it was just a freak accident. So I'm hearing he's feeling good. He's pitching well. You knew Soriano wasn't going to stay because Soriano is a closer. You put him in that role, he flourishes. You put him in the role as Mariano's setup man in the 8th inning, he didn't do well. I mean, some guys just have the mindset to be a closer, and that's what they are, and then they flourish. So you knew, he was gone. But you know what? That being said, he is 44 years old, and eventually the age catches up to everybody, and it's just not him. It's the whole team. It's just an old team. Derek Jeter, all right, yeah, he's a solid player. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but 38 years old, and he hasn't played a game yet since the ankle injury. They've lost a lot of power. They have lost a lot of home runs. Granderson is out for at least mid-May, right? You lost Swisher. That's 28, 29 home runs. You lost Ibanez. You lost Chavez. A-Rod, even though A-Rod is shot, I mean, he still poses a threat to hit a home run. The Yankees are going to have to start playing small ball, which is very unlike the Yankees.
And look, they signed a couple weeks back. They signed a guy that just it shocked me, Travis Hoffner.
Right.
Here's a guy, talk about age, he's 35, 36 years old, $2 million deal. I mean, $2 million deal. He does have some incentives where he can make up to $4, but, I think it's becoming dollar issues with the Steinbrenners, and that's just, Papa Steinbrenner's got to be rolling over in his grave because, his goal was always nothing more than to win at any cost, and the Suns are just not following that rule. I mean, they're I mean, we're going to talk about the Mets here, but you look at the Yankees and they're making Metish moves. I mean, even the Mets. The only thing that I like about the Mets is that we seem to. I'm not happy about any of the moves really that they've made outside their own organization, but a lot of these young players are looking like they're going to do okay.
Yeah. I mean, let's before we get even to the Mets, you're right, because that's going to start me on the Mets. We won't stop with the Yankees, but getting back to the Yankees, yeah, I mean, the Steinbrenners, the sons, are definitely not the father. The father put winning ahead of money. These guys are just businessmen, and I don't think they have the passion for winning or for being baseball owners like the father did. It's been said numerous times that they want to get under the $189 million salary, luxury tax for next year. They want to be under 189 because they don't want to pay the luxury tax, where George was more than willing to pay it. And and that poses a big problem because they got Robinson Cano, who's in the prime of his career, and he's up for free agency. And already they made an offer to him, which was a very substantial offer, which I heard numbers, and I'll tell you those numbers in a second. But already, the Scott Boras said no. And because he's a Boras guy, he's gonna test the free agent market, and you got guys out there, teams out there, spending like drunken sailors in a what house, cat house. Like the Dodgers. The Dodgers are just spending money like it's going out of style. And Boras is going to, he's going to look for the most money for Robinson Cano. He's not a guy like Derek Jeter where, I don't think he cares if he ends his career as a Yankee. I think the most important thing to him is money, which is fine. I mean, I appreciate guys who say, you know what, I'm going where the most money is. And look at Zach Greinke. He said the Dodgers threw a boatload of money at me. Yeah, that's why I took it. Great, that's fine. I appreciate the honesty. So the Yankees do have some problems, with the age, with money. They don't want to spend like they used to. They're going to be under 189 next year for sure. I can't see them going over because they're adamant about that. So they're going to have a problem signing Cano, and they need this guy. They need him. The rest of the team, catcher. I mean, yeah, you lost. I forgot to mention Martin. I mean, he can give you 18, 19, 20 home runs. And now you got Cervelli, who is probably their best offensive threat at catcher, but he's not very good defensively. And then you guys like Romaine and Stewart, who can't hit a lick, but are better defensively. So they're going to suffer at catcher. I mean, they have – you're finally going into a year right now where people aren't – you're giving the Yankees, the title of the American League East. Like, here it is. Like, you win it all the time. Here it is. They're not doing that now. This is a team. They're going to have problems this year. I don't see them winning the American League East. There's just too much competition in that division. Everybody improved in that division except for the Yankees.
Great point. And the thing is listen, I'm not writing off the Baltimore Orioles. I love those young, scrappy teams. Toronto's going to be the team everybody's watching. Boston is I mean, although the Boston fans won't admit it and they won't think it, but, they're not an awful team, and I don't know. They're looking better than the Yankees, that's for sure. How about our Mets? The Mets, before we talk about the Mets, and I should have said this before we even mentioned anything about the Yankees, did you catch that Edith Howden, who's one of the first Major League Baseball female scouts, died a couple of weeks ago at 100 years old? She played on one of those teams, those female, when they made that movie, Tom Hanks
League of Their Own?
Yeah. She played on not that team, I don't think, but
right.
one of those teams during that era. And I never even knew anything about her, and it was just a little sub-story I caught somewhere, and I just wanted to give basically a little time to that. I mean, I thought it was pretty good because you look at, female, athletes today, and we'll talk about the Jets trying out a female kicker. I got to laugh. I don't mean to, make fun of her or anything, but, I mean, she never even kicked it outside of kicking a soccer ball, for God's sakes. And whose camp does she end up in? Of course, the Jets,
Naturally.
But, of course, I know. But this woman apparently did a fantastic job, and she lived to the ripe old age of 100 years old, man.
Who was she a scout for?
She was a scout for in the major leagues for several teams. Most recently, I believe, for the Philadelphia team.
I think that's great. And don't forget, she also started doing this at a time where now it's more acceptable for female athletes. They're not as discriminated upon as they were when this woman was coming up in the ranks. So what she did was really groundbreaking, basically.
Yeah, I know.
So that's good that you mentioned that and gave her the time, because that's quite an accomplishment, and that's I hope to see that more often. I really do.
Yeah, it's funny because when I caught the article, I honestly, to this day, I couldn't name one. I'm not really up on any scouts, but I couldn't name one female Major League Baseball scout. To be honest with you, today, I mean, in the year 2013, let alone a woman that has been involved in professional baseball for most of her life, and she lived to 100, so pretty amazing stuff. But let's talk a little Mets, if we have to.
Sure.
The Mets, our young pitchers are looking good, bro. We may not have a team around them, but they're looking good. Wheeler's looking decent, although he's got a little injury. You and I disagree, about any injury. A little injury is a concern for me. But a guy I really wanted to ask you about is Paisan, Corey Mazzoni, man. This guy apparently he's not getting as much attention. His locker's not near Zach Wheeler or Matt Harvey. But this guy is doing very well in spring training. Is he going to make the roster, or is he another one of these young guns that we're going to have maybe for that magical 2014 year?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to make the roster. I think we pretty much know who is as far as rotation goes. But Listen, I've said this, that it is what it is with the Mets. We have no choice but to accept this. But the things that Sandy Alderson has done and what he's capable of doing because of the finances, I think they're good. Like you talked about Wheeler. Wheeler's going to be up this year. I don't know when. I'm guessing around July. There's financial reasons for that, because if they start him in the minor leagues in Vegas and he stays there for a certain amount of time, then they have him for an extra year before he can hit free agency. Same thing with Travis Deneau. They have to do that. It's just smart business. But these guys will be up. Matt Harvey, this guy's been looking great. He's got an attitude about him, which I love. He was watching the other day when he was watching Justin Verlander, who's probably the best pitcher in baseball right now, and he was just watching every move, what he did, at warm up, during the game. And somebody asked him, what do you think of Justin Verlander? And he goes, yeah, he reminds me a lot of myself. I mean,
that was when
I like that.
That was when that was when Verlander pitched a perfect game for the innings that he faced the Mets, right, the other day.
Yeah. I mean, but for Matt Harvey to say something like that, I think I like it. I mean, it just shows that he's a competitor. He told Terry Collins when he came up here, because I don't want to come up here just to fill a spot. I want to come up here to be the guy. And eventually he will be.
Oh, we just lost you, Mikey. Mikey, we just lost you. We got to get you back here. My thing, it's always been, especially with the Mets, is that now's the time. Now's the time. I got issues with Mike's system here, so we're gonna have to be back to Mike here in a second. But I believe that it's the time now for the young players, for the Mets, to come up and do what they got to do. I am not patient as a Met fan waiting until 2014, the way Terry Collins is constantly saying, Alderson's constantly saying, 2014 is going to be our year. We just, it's not right. You have the young, I was going to say fighters again. You have the young ball players. Whether they're ready or not. Why not put them in? Why not put them in? Look, we're not going to have a great year anyway. We're not. So why are we going to wait? Why are we going to prolong that? I mean, let's put them in. If we're accepting the fact that the Mets are not going to have a productive year or a World Series year. I mean, maybe they'll have a productive year. Maybe they'll have a year that we see improvement and stuff. But we're definitely not getting to no World Series this year. Why not put the game in the hands of the young players? You got some young guys on the team. I mentioned Corey Mazzoni. Corey Mazzoni he's had a great what do I want to call it? Minor league career. He's having a decent camp. He's having a very good camp. He does throw a baseball in the high 90s. Regularly between 90 and 95, and he does get his fastball above 95 at times. So I mean, this is a kid that, he can pitch. I mean, obviously every hitter in the major leagues can hit a fastball. There's no question about that. But not every pitcher can throw, in excess of 90 miles an hour, 95 miles an hour, and this kid can. So why are we going to wait? I mean, yeah, we got some other pitchers. We picked up a couple of older pitchers. We have a couple of older guys that are on our roster. But I mean, why risk them? We're hearing about Santana. And Santana is not going to be ready. They actually pushed his spring training back, and they're saying, oh, well, that doesn't matter. He's going to be ready for opening day and everything. I mean, this guy hasn't pitched a full season. I think he only pitched one full season for the Mets since we got him. He's in his last year of his contract. We're hoping, we're keeping our fingers crossed that he's going to give us something this year. I mean, it's just it's crazy in my opinion. It just is. I say take these guys. We signed a former Red Sox reliever Scott Atchison. Big deal. He's 36 years old. And what do the Mets do? They brag about his ERA. He has a below 2 ERA. He does. He has well below 2. He's got a 1.58. I can't say the word 8. 1.58 ERA. But so what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He was only in 42 games as a reliever, and that's the type of player that we wanna get. We finally got you back here. I had to reboot the whole thing here, but I'm just saying, I don't know if you were listening, but the bottom line is, I say, listen, we've already accepted the fact that we have a young team and we're looking ahead for 2014. I would like to say that we're going to, somewhat be competitive, but why not take the chance with the young guys, Mike? Why not bring up a guy like Mazzoni or even, I know Meja is a guy that, hasn't lived up to expectations, but, I mean, why not take a chance with these guys? Our pitching staff, I mean, we got the one guy that's on a heart monitor, for God's sakes. What's his name? Who hasn't pitched? Yeah, Feliciano, who we killed. We destroyed the guy ourselves.
We did, because he in the 5 years he was with us, he threw like in half the games.
I know.
We buried the guy.
I know, and the Yankees pick him up, and he doesn't do anything for the Yankees. Now he's on a heart monitor. I mean, and he's our team. And we do have some guys. I was mentioning the ex former Red Sox Atchison that we signed, Scott Atchison. So what? He's 36 years old. I don't have much confidence in him. We have Brandon Lyon. He's another guy for our bullpen, 34 years old. I mean, it's scary, man. It's scary because today's Major League Baseball starter, if you get 6 innings out of the guy, you're jumping for joy. And who are we going to hand the ball to? After we get 6 innings, who are we going to give the ball to?
Well, I mean, I think the bullpen is definitely better this year than it was last year. Last year we know about the bullpen. We blew so many saves. We had a tremendous amount of problems.
Yeah, but it started out solid. It did start out solid last year. Remember?
Well, the team was the first half of the season they were excelling.
That's right.
And they played above their heads.
Don't remind me. You put
hitting,
the win.
And they were getting 2-out hits. Which they didn't do at all the second half of the season. So it wasn't just I just say that the bullpen wasn't in need as much in the first half.
And you hadn't
where in the second half, when you had to go to the bullpen, they were awful.
And you put the whammy on them.
I put the whammy, and that's right. But back to your suggestion about bringing up the young guys. Yeah, I think they are going to do. I said they're going to bring up the catcher, Travis Deneau, from who got from Toronto from the Dickey deal. They're gonna bring up Wheeler. It's just they want to give him a little time. Like I said, they have to keep him in the minors for a certain amount of time just for financial reasons. So we have them under contract for that extra year before they hit free agency, which makes sense.
Yeah, money.
Okay,
money sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, it makes good business sense, and you would do the same thing. It just makes good sense. If I'm your pitcher. Right? If I'm your pitcher and you could have me for an extra year and I'm a good pitcher and before I hit free agency, wouldn't you want that? Yeah.
Yeah, but
that's fine.
But what if the price tag means that? Yeah, well, see, I guess I'm thinking like a Met fan. I want to be competitive from April 1st on. I mean, I want to be competitive when that season kicks off. And the Mets have already reserved the fact that they're not going to be, and they're okay with that. And to come out and say that the way they have. Come on, man. What kind of fan support in terms of going to live games are you really expecting this year as a Met fan?
Oh, I can't see people going out and buying season tickets.
Can you see them buying any?
When I think when a guy like Matt Harvey is on the mound, I think that people are going to buy tickets. I think when they start bringing up a guy like Zach Wheeler, people are going to buy tickets, and Travis Deneau, and I mean, people are going to. this team is going to start to develop. Listen, they're in a rebuilding period. That's it. That's the bottom line. They're going to bring up these young guns. You mentioned Mazzoni. I don't think he's ready. Yeah, okay, he throws 97, but he throws it straight as an arrow. Okay, he's got to get a little movement on his fastball. Yeah, he challenges pitchers, but he needs a little bit of work. His curve isn't as great as they like it to be. So yeah, he'll be there eventually, but you don't want to rush him. But Wheeler's ready. I think Wheeler is ready now, and they're just going to wait until probably July. And listen, if history has predicted itself, the Mets will play well in the beginning of the season. Yeah, they usually do. It's the second half of the season that we have to worry about, and if we're competitive for the first half and they start bringing these guys up in the second half, who knows? The biggest problem with this team is the outfield. It stinks. There's no offense coming out of the outfield. It's horrendous. And that's going to be the main focus next year when we go to free agency, because you're going to have contracts coming off. Santana is going to be gone. That $25 million a year, it's gone. And that's where they have to spend the money, because our starting pitching is the strength of this team. It is definitely, and they're all young.
Well, what do you think?
All young except for Santana.
Let's talk about the outfield. What do you think of the moving Duda? They're looking at him in right field now, right?
Yeah, well, he said he didn't like left last year. He played left. He wasn't comfortable. Listen, I've never been a fan of Duda. People say he has oodles of talent. They've seen it. Ike Davis came out and said he's better than me. I don't believe that at all. Ike Davis had 32 home runs last year. I don't see Duda coming close to that. He's just not an offensive threat, and neither is Neuenhuis. And once teams got books on these guys, they were bombing last year. They were terrible.
Yeah, but defensively, Neuenhuis is pretty good.
Defensively, yeah.
And
Duda's not. But Duda's not defensively. He's pretty good.
Well, maybe.
And then if you take away the bat, what do you got? You got Dave Kingman without home runs. I mean, I'm not happy with Duda. I don't like Duda. I'm not a Duda fan.
Maybe they should move. Maybe they should move the fence back another 40 feet.
We'll bring it in for you.
Yeah. Well, only for when they should have a moving fence when they're up at bat. I think we just solved the problem. I think we just solved the Mets' problem. We should have a moving outfield fence. When the Mets are batting, they move it in 40 feet, and when the Mets are out in the field, they move it out 40 feet. It'll give us a better chance at winning some of those games. But I don't know, man. I know what you're saying when you put your business hat on, and you're 100% correct. And chances are, if I was the pencil pusher for the Mets, I would be thinking along those lines. But unfortunately, I'm a fan first, and I'm a competitive fan, and I want to be, especially. I mean, come on, Mike. We're in a year where the team could actually be better than the Yankees. And we're going to be worse than the Yankees that we're laughing about now, and then to have the Mets even worse than them, that's going to be very hard to swallow. Yeah,
well, chances are we're going to be worse than Yankees, and if this could have been a nice year, we actually finished ahead of our crosstown rivals, but it's not going to be that way. And before I keep going on, let me just say that we just talked about Duda. I think he was in. Correct myself. He was in right field last year, and that's where he was uncomfortable. I think they're going to switch him to left.
Okay, I knew. I was wondering as soon as I said that. I'm saying, no, wait a minute. Did I just screw up? Because I know he was. I know it wasn't center.
Was right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm glad you're here to straighten.
He wasn't comfortable there. They're going to move him to left, and we'll see what happens. But he's defensively, he's not that good. Offensively, they sat him down. And this is spring training, so that makes you really worry.
Maybe they can,
when this regular season starts. Neuenhuis, okay, yeah, he's going to be solid for you in center field, but I mean, Terry Collins is going to have to mix and match and platoon, and he's got a lot of work to do in that outfield. You got this guy Cowgill, who, from what I've been reading about, he's like a poor man's David Eckstein. I mean, he's a scrappy player. I mean, obviously no power, but he's a slap hitter. But he's the kind of guy that we appreciate as Met fans, someone who doesn't mind getting a uniform dirty, like a Lenny Dykstra, you know. So he's gonna add some excitement to the team. Bird, who we picked up, I don't know if he's an everyday player, but he's gonna have to be in the beginning. Who else we got? Mike Baxter in the outfield. Mike Baxter can hit.
Yeah, he never impressed me last year.
No, well, let me ask you this: who impresses you, Mike Baxter or Lucas Duda?
Lucas Duda had his moments. Lucas Duda, listen, again, if you're going to go with the youth, you got the growing pains to deal with. And typically the Mets and similar to the Ets, the Jets, they have a tendency to pick up these young talented players. They ride them a little bit, then they get rid of them, and they give them a chance to become superstars someplace else. And I'm not saying Duda's ever going to be a superstar, but he is young, and I don't know, man. If you're going to make that youth movement, make it. I don't know. Hey, one thing I wanted to add about the Mets real quick. Bobby Valentine, did you catch that now he's in the college ranks? Yeah, I did. Good for Bobby. You know what? I think, I when I first found that out, I said to myself, Bobby Valentine, oh, my God, how's an old school guy like him going to make it with all these young attitudes and stuff? He obviously proved he couldn't do it, even on the Red Sox when he was there for a cup of coffee last year. But then I started thinking about it more. And, guys like Bobby Valentine, these control freaks, these kicky-in-the-ass type managers and coaches in football and stuff, they thrive in college football and baseball programs because they're the center of the team, and I think that's what Bobby needs. And I have a feeling he's going to do well. Maybe he becomes the Bobby Knight of college baseball. Well, he's going to do well because you just said it. Like, he came to Boston, and, but these are all, like, high-profile millionaire crybabies. Right. Where in college, it's just total opposite. They're going to look up to this guy who was, major league manager, Japan League, winning World Series in Japan, and it's Bobby Valentine. You're right; he's going to be the centerpiece. Yeah, no. And I think he's going to flourish. I think he's going to do well, and I think the kids are going to respect him and look up to him and listen to him, and obviously not have attitudes like the Red Sox did. Yeah, no, that was a whole terrible thing, and I think they really. They knocked the legs out of the chair under him in Boston. But hey, one last thing on the Mets, Santana. I was talking about it when I was trying to get you back. I don't have a good feeling about Santana, man. I think Johan is going to have a rough year. They're saving him already. I mean, this guy. I know he wants to perform. I know he's in the last year. All indicators show that he's going to try his hardest, and I'm not saying he never did because this is one thing I love about Johan Santana is that he does try his hardest. He is a competitor, but I think he's going to have a rough year. And if he doesn't have a rough year, I'd like to see the Mets keep him, even though I know you think that's like, forget it, that's never going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen because, even if he has a rough year, he's still going to command more money than he deserves. They're already talking about maybe he'll be ready for the fourth or fifth game of the season. You know what? It's going to be tough. I was really hoping that once they shut him down last year because of the back issue, the fatigue, that, okay, we'll shut him down. There's no need to keep putting him out there. And he'll be fresh and ready for spring training, and all of a sudden, boom, again, he's not ready. Body, he's getting older, body breaking down, and it's unfortunate. If he was, give us a solid year. Listen, I'm not saying we'd make the playoffs or be in contention, but. Yeah, I'd like to have a winning season. Let's put it that way. I want to have an above 500 season. That's my goal as a Met fan this year. And to play teams like the Cubs, like the Astros, and to beat those teams that we should beat that we didn't do last year. We just didn't play well against teams that we should beat. So those are some of the things that I want to see happen this year. I want to see a step in the right direction. I don't want to see them digress and go backwards
now that Harvey's going to be with us for the whole year, and possibly, in July bringing up Zach Wheeler and Travis Denode, this team should improve and show improvements for 2014.
Well, now that I'm ready to throw up thinking about how our season's going to be, let's talk.
Well, let me ask you this real quick: are we going to have a better year this year than we did last year?
I don't know, man. That's such a I don't think we're a better team than we were last year.
See, I do. Because of guys like Harvey being with us for the whole season, because of guys like Denode and Wheeler eventually coming up during the season, our outfield last year stunk anyway. I mean, we had Jason Bay. We paid this guy $66 million, and what do? We got rid of him even before his contract was up. Thank God they did something right.
Who did he sign with again?
Say again?
Who picked him up again?
Seattle Mariners for 1 year.
Oh God.
Yeah. So I mean, but that was the move we wanted to see, and we didn't expect to see it, but lo and behold, we did see it. So, like I said, last year we still didn't have any production from the outfield, and this year I'm expecting the same, very low production from the outfield, but I'm expecting David Wright to be his all-star self. I'm expecting Murphy to hit 300. I'm expecting Ike Davis not to go through the first half of the season like he did last year, where he was just awful. And then, towards the end of the year, he ended up with – I mean, I would never have imagined watching this guy in the first half of the year that he was going to end up with 32 home runs and 90-plus RBIs.
He was streaky all year long. I think that David Wright is going to do something to his back, and we're going to lose him for a good portion of the year. I just have this strange feeling, and we're going to be left with nothing, because I totally disagreed with that move, 100% with him. But
signing him?
Yeah, well, I'm going back a year before. I think they should have kept Reyes. I'm sorry, I'm never going to get over that. The two players that I was to this day I regret, and I guess I could say Tom Seaver and everything, but the two players I regret was them getting rid of Reyes, and when they got rid of Ray Ordonez, who was a great shortstop as well. And I know that he turned into a wackadoodle, but I don't know.
Well, I agree with you. I didn't want to get rid of Reyes myself, but that was the time when they were having their most financial woes, and they were going to court, and you didn't know what the outcome was going to be.
Yeah, but they didn't even offer him anything.
According to them, they offered him something, but it wasn't as close. I mean, as what the Marlins offered him. You knew that. You knew there was going to be teams out there that were going to top what the Mets were going to offer, and you knew Reyes was going to give no hometown discount because he already gave the hometown discount when he signed that ridiculous – they got him for cheap. When they signed him for $37 million.
I know, but I would have rather see them give the David Wright contract to him. I mean, he's a better player. He fires up the rest of the team. David Wright does not. Listen, I don't care what anybody says. I don't think David Wright is a leader. Yes, he's a leader by definition, but he's not a guy that gets his team jacked up. Reyes does. You just watch this guy. He gets the fans jacked up. He gets the players jacked up, and he doesn't even have to get a hit. He just has to hustle to first base and almost beat out the throw. And that gets his teammates jacked up. Wright. He's like he's like an ivory boy next door. He's just like I'm sorry. You know what? I just can't get excited over him. And I have a feeling.
I agree. I mean, he's not the kind of guy. He's not a rah-rah guy. He's not a guy that, like you said with Reyes. When Reyes, he slid in with a triple. He got up and he was, and he was showing that emotion. Wright doesn't show that emotion.
Yeah, but if you have one guy that you can open the checkbook to, one out of a whole team, why do you choose him? He's basically have become the face of the franchise, and my point is I would rather have had Reyes as the face. And I know I keep going down this road, and it's just something that haunts me. And poor Reyes is stuck up in Toronto now. I mean, hey, I hope
he's going to have issues in Toronto with that artificial turf.
Well, it's going to rip him apart. This guy is going to end up. His career is going to be cut short because of that. His knee. And also his weak hamstring, you're 100% correct. let's talk a little football. Before we get started, I want to mention one thing. My boys from Alabama, Nick Saban. This goes to show what we were just talking about with Bobby V going to college. Nick Saban kicked off a handful of players that got arrested for robbing stuff on campus. But it just goes to show you that he doesn't care who you are, whether you're a starter or not, that the rules are the rules are the rules. And that's something not only that I love about Nick Saban, but I love about college football. And I wish the same rules applied in the NFL at times, but it's become such a money game that, some of these big dollar players get away with an awful lot of BS, man. And I can't stand it. But we haven't had a chance to talk since the Super Bowl. I picked wrong. I picked the 49ers in that game. But I will tell you this. And I did say that I thought that the Ravens had a lot going in, but I had to go with my Niners because they are my second favorite team besides the Jets. And I will say this, Mike. I thought that it was the most exciting Super Bowl that I've watched in years. I did not watch – I never watched the Giants and Patriots games. I can't stand either team, and I literally, when they played in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, I turned it off. But not only did I think the some of the halftime stuff was great, I love Beyonce, and I thought that Alicia Keys did, although she was really criticized, I thought she did a fantastic job with the national anthem, playing that piano. I thought it was great, and we got treated to a fantastic two halves of football. One half was for the Ravens, and the other half was for the 49ers. But I loved every minute of it. What's your thoughts, real quick?
Yeah, I did too. I thought it was excellent. I thought that John outcoached Jim, which I was happy about. I'm not a Jim Harbaugh fan. I am a John Harbaugh fan. I picked the Ravens. I'm not a Ravens fan. There were things about the Ravens I don't like Ray Lewis, but I picked them. I wanted them to win because of John, and I really felt they were going to win, which they ended up doing. Like you said, exciting down to the wire. The play calling, the last drive of the 49ers. I'm still scratching my head.
What were they thinking?
Why they did that?
What were they thinking? Was that a Jets team? Was that a Jets offensive?
I don't know. I was shocked. Now I will say this one thing. Second down, they were down. Gore made that run, 31-yard run, knocked out of bounds around the 10-yard line or whatever it was. Okay, so now you're first and goal.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Go back because that bomb that they threw was a waste of a play. Was a waste of a down. Remember when he tried to catch him up and he wings the ball, 60 yards downfield or something. That was a wasted down, man. That was a stupid play call, I thought. But then I think the Gore play, he rattled off the 30 yards or something like that. It was. They were lucky to get a first down on that drive.
Yeah. I mean, let's go from the Gore running the 31 yards. They were lucky that they knocked him out of bounds. Ed Reed slowed him up, and Ellerby, knocked him out. First down, they ran the ball. Second down, this is the inexperience that I was talking about that was going to catch up to them with Kaepernick as the quarterback. He wasn't watching the clock, and Jim had to call a timeout in order not to get the delay of game penalty. And if you remember, the ball was snapped to him, and he started to move with it. So they were going to use him, use his legs, use his mobility to try to, get some yardage. After that play, was whistled dead, then they just passed 3 times in a row, which made no sense to me. But they did try to use him at second down. Unfortunately, because of his inexperience, he didn't watch the clock. Jim had to waste a timeout, and that was a bad time to waste a timeout.
It was his last timeout, and the thing was that I would have taken the 5 yards, considering how. I mean, come on, Kaepernick was dead nuts accurate in that second half. I mean, he was zipping that ball in. The 5 yards wouldn't have made a difference, I thought. As a matter of fact, it may have helped them a little bit. But you got to give credit for the Ravens, shutting them down, when it mattered most. Listen, it was an exciting game. It went all the way to the end. And, I loved it. My team lost, but I loved the game. And, there's some other discussion about the 49ers now. And Alex Smith finally was officially traded to Kansas City. That kind of surprised me a little bit. Not that Kansas City doesn't need a quarterback, but I really thought the Jets were going to try and do something for Alex Smith. And, obviously the price tag was too much. What's your thoughts with the 49ers sending him to Kansas City, which, by the way, Kansas City was not that bad of a team. Yeah, the record shows it, but they had a lot of pieces in place, and now they got Andy Reid, and they have a legitimate number one quarterback. I think you're going to see one of the biggest turnarounds in NFL history with this team this year.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I mean, he's got Jamal Charles, which for some reason Romeo Cornell shut him down second half of the season. I don't know why. But he's got a running game, and he's got Bo to pass to, and it's definitely going to be an improvement in that team. Listen, I mean, Alex Smith is no Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, but you know what? He flourished under Harbaugh. He became a very consistent game manager. He wasn't great with the long ball, but however, with short passes and playing smart, and the key thing, which is what Jet fans were hoping for, is that this is a quarterback that didn't turn the ball over. He didn't intercept. He didn't get intercepted. He didn't fumble. He was very careful, very smart. Almost I think of actually a more talented Chad Pennington, basically.
No, please. I hated Pennington.
Well, I think Pennington was a smart quarterback, though.
Okay, but he was smart, but he couldn't throw more than 15 yards.
Exactly, but that's what I'm saying. He's a more talented Chad Pennington, and I think I would have loved to have him. He was the only one that really was out there, because there really isn't much out there that would have really helped this team. But you said it before, is that the price tag was just too high with $8 million plus. And when you have Sanchez making a guaranteed $8 million, that's $16 million in two quarterbacks, and one of them is going to be holding a clipboard. So it just wasn't going to happen, unfortunately.
No, I know.
We were $20 million over the cap when Idzik got here, John Idzik, our new GM, and now we're about $10 million or $8 million under the cap after all the salaries that he dumped.
Which
so,
I don't
he's doing the right thing.
I was happy with some of the names. Let me just jump back to the Super Bowl 1 second before we get into Jets. First of all, the gambling world set a record on the Super Bowl. Almost $100 million was bet on that game. Super Bowl, $98.9 million, and that's just Vegas money. So right. that exceeded that. And speaking about success, how about the guy who deserved the big contract finally got it, and that's, of course, is the Ravens quarterback Flacco, officially $120 million over 6 years. Listen, the performance he had in the playoffs and then followed by a win in the Super Bowl, that inked and solidified his pay being where it is today. What's your thoughts?
I think it's great for Joe. Jersey boy, he took a gamble. He gambled on himself, and he won. Because they offered him, they wanted to renegotiate his contract before the year, before he even started this year. And he says, you know what, let me play out this year, and then we'll sit down and we'll discuss it afterwards. And you can't do any better than what he did.
No way.
Outplaying everybody he played and winning a Super Bowl.
Nope.
So, he, like I said, he gambled, he won, and it's well deserved. It's well deserved. He's in that top echelon of quarterbacks. There's no doubt about it.
And speaking about top echelon quarterbacks, a guy I can't stand, but I got to give him all the credit in the world. Tom Brady from the New England Patriots reworks his contract. He ends up with a 3-year extension, but the thing that impressed me the most about this guy, and I really think that Darrelle Revis should rip a page or try to rip a page out of the Tom Brady book. And this guy clearly, once you make a few $1,000,000 in life in today's world, realistically, how much more do you really need to live comfortably for you, your family, and your grandkids, your great-grandkids? And then, your priorities must be switched. And Tom Brady, his priorities is his team and to have a winning team. And he was very flexible with his contract to give that team some flexibility to maintain a winning and competitive team, something that self-centered pieces of garbage like Darrelle Revis don't even think about. And I, for one, hope that we do trade Darrelle Revis to the San Francisco 49ers for a handful of draft picks. I think that might be the smartest move for the Jets right now. What's your thoughts?
My thought about Brady is, listen, I've always respected Tom Brady. I can't stand the Patriots. I can't stand Belichick. But for me, Brady has always been a class guy. Again, what he did for the team, he's not a selfish guy. He's a team guy. And, he's going to get his money, but, he doesn't need it right away. He doesn't need $20 million next year. He'll settle for $9 million or whatever he's getting. That's fine. And plus, his wife makes more money than he does.
That's true.
He's got more money than God.
That's true.
So, it's not bad to be Tom Brady. The other thing that impressed me about Tom Brady this week is that he goes on a radio show. He does a weekly spot, I guess, in the New England area. And they want him to come on, even though this is not the time that he comes on. He usually does it during the season. They wanted him to come on to talk about his contract, and he turned them down. And the reason he turned them down, I'm paraphrasing his statement, but he said during hard times like this, and there are a lot of people that are unemployed and not working. Nobody wants to hear me go on a radio show and talk about the money that I've making. It's not about me. It's about my team, and it's always been about my team and winning Super Bowls. And again, he's just a class act, and a very talented class act. So I've got nothing. I have nothing negative to say about Brady. I think he's great for the game. He's great for his team. I wish we had him on our team, and I wish guys like Darrelle Revis, would learn, from a guy like Brady, because I have said this for a long time after his second holdout that I cannot stand Darrelle Revis. I don't care how talented you are, you're not above a team, okay? And Darrelle Revis he's a me guy. I mean, this guy has made $50 million already for the Jets, and it's still not enough. He wants to be the highest paid defensive player in the game. He wants to make $16 million a year. I have had it for a number of years now with Darrelle Revis. You and I have both said on the air that we wanted the Jets to trade him last year before the draft to get the Cleveland Browns number 3 pick to pick what's his name, the running back?
Richardson.
Thank you. To pick Richardson, because that's something that we need. We need a good running game to help a guy like Sanchez, where Darrelle Revis, he's not going to win you Super Bowls. Okay, without Darrelle Revis last year, the best thing on defense for the New York Jets was their secondary, without a doubt. Without a doubt, they all stepped up to the plate and performed well. You don't need him. He's a guy that is going to be needed on a team like Denver or San Francisco. He's the missing link to the puzzle that's going to put them over the top, possibly. And I can't wait to get rid of him. It's going to happen before the draft. Hearing him, on the NFL Network saying, I'm shocked. They didn't call their best player. Why didn't they call me? Excuse me. Who are you? It has nothing to, it's business. They don't have to call you. They don't have to call anybody.
Rex Ryan created that monster.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
And I think that Rex Ryan has lost control, and he's lost control, but yet he was handed more control. Listen, it's a sinking ship. We've talked about it. We're the laughing stock of all of sports, not just the NFL, all of sports. And it's a joke. When a guy like Michael Vick reworks his contract to stay with the Eagles, I mean, if you and I, but the week of the Super Bowl, if anyone asked either one of us if we thought Michael Vick was going to end up staying on the Eagles, I doubt anybody would have said yes. You know, I mean, it was a foregone conclusion. I mean, there was discussion that he would end up on the Jets, for God's sakes. You know, so, you know, for him to rework his contract, not even being guaranteed that he's going to be the starter next year, just goes to show you that at some point in time, all players realize that a team has no eye in it, and Darrelle Revis, for some reason, hasn't followed suit. And if I'm any other Jet, and I'm hearing these comments from him, I don't want him to be my teammate. He's not going to win the game single-handedly. And by the way, he wasn't exactly the shutdown corner of the way he was. He plays with the attitude, woe is me, you know, and he hasn't even been as good. Listen, I agree with you. We can't get rid of him quick enough. The Jets have a lot of other issues to deal with. They don't have a running back. They don't have anything. They really don't. They have nothing. They're looking at. I can't believe that they bring in Girard. They worked out Girard. Listen, I used to like Girardi from Jacksonville, but the guy's 36 years old now. He hasn't played in 2 years. The guy is more fragile than Pennington was. You know, I mean, this is a guy that has no business even trying out for the Jets. And speaking of which, they're letting that female, which I have no problem with. You know, you know what? I do have a problem with it. If she played in the college level, or any female athlete played in the college level and at any position, then I could see them getting a tryout on the NFL. This is just another one of these circus shows that the Jets bring in. You know, what are they doing? They don't need any more media attention, let alone a player who's never kicked a field goal in her life. She's been kicking soccer balls, you know, and she's doing it for awareness. And one last thing I want to mention about the Jets, we got the draft coming up in another month or two, another month actually, and you know, we're going to be looking at a decision, Mike. You know, everybody knows that the Jets are going to be going defensive line and everything else, linebacker. They said they're not going to take T.O. You know, the bottom line is that the NFL is under the gun right now for asking the wrong questions. Do you like girls? Do you date girls? Do you do this? For all these guys. I mean, it's crazy stuff, right? I mean, everything's just falling apart. But the thing that bothers me is, you know, I'm looking at the draft. I'm looking at some of these players, and we all know we need a quarterback. And I know we're stuck with Sanchez. But you know what? The Jets are going to be looking at there's not very many quarterbacks in the NFL, in the college ranks that are going to be going to the NFL that are going to be available to the Jets. But, you know, one guy that keeps coming up in discussion that is going to be available, most likely 9 times out of 10 when the Jets draft, unless they work that deal, is the kid from Arkansas. And he's pretty good. You know, he's a big quarterback, something the Jets haven't gotten. You know, they've been drafting since Kenny O'Brien. Every quarterback has been 6'1". You know, and that's not big enough in the NFL today, Mike.
No, it's not. I mean, unless you're Drew Brees or
there's an
Wilson from Seattle.
Those are two exceptions, and
yeah, there's always an exception. There's always.
And Drew Brees had a rough year too.
Well, yeah, Drew Brees had a rough year because his coach was gone. And
right.
He had to play musical chairs with his head coach.
And his team was
injured.
We
said that. We said he was going to have a rough year. We knew that.
Hey, they were still in it. They were still in it towards the end, you know.
Yeah, all on his shoulders. And if he would have had his coach there, you know, it would have been much better for him. But
hey, did you see this? Speaking of the coach,
back.
Hey, I didn't mean to interrupt, but speaking of Sean Payton, did you catch the clip of him at the combine trying to work his binoculars backwards?
No, did he really?
They had the camera on the poor guy. You know, here he is sitting at the combine in one of his seats, and they show him put the binoculars on, and all of a sudden he looks down and he had them backwards. He had to flip him. He had to flip him over. I'm like, oh man, why do they put cameras on these poor guys? You know, here he is, Sean Payton can't wait to get back in the mix, and you know, somebody's got to teach him how to use a set of binocs, man.
Well, he's been away for a while.
Yeah,
give the guy a break. What we do talk about the draft? Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot out there. I mean, and you were talking about we can't get rid of Darrelle Revis fast enough, but do I really want the 31st and the 34th pick for Darrelle Revis? I don't think it's enough. I mean, listen, as much as I can't stand the guy and I can't wait to get rid of him, he's probably the best corner in football.
Wait a minute. You're forgetting that they got some draft picks from the Chiefs.
That's what I'm talking about. That's the 34th. That's what they're talking about. They got the 34th, which is the Chiefs' second-round pick. Okay, the Chiefs.
Oh, wait a minute!
First.
I thought they got a number one pick.
Yeah, but they're not giving the Jets the number. No. The 49ers do not have the number one pick. That's still the Chiefs' pick. They gave the 49ers their second pick, which is the 34th pick.
Oh, I misunderstood. I thought they were getting the Chiefs' number one pick for Alex Smith.
No, that would be the number one pick in the draft. Hey, that's not happening.
Yeah, okay.
No. So that's why I don't. The 49ers, the talk is that they would give the Jets their number one pick, which is the 31st pick.
Right.
And the pick that they got from the Alex Smith trade, which is the Chiefs' second-round pick, the 34th pick overall. That being said, this is not a very talented draft. So I'm going to take a risk on a 31st and 34th pick and give you the best corner in football.
And
that's not enough.
Well, first of all, he's coming off an injury. So we wouldn't even know if he's going to be 100%. You know, and the thing is that, you know, if you can get rid of him and the baggage and listen, even if they like they say, hey, he's a Jet through next year anyway, you know that he's going to bring turmoil with that team if they don't sign him and give him what he wants. Listen, it's just like we talked about with Jason Bay with the Mets. You know, it comes to a time when you got to say, F it. Cut your losses, get them the hell out of New York, you know. And this is a year that maybe the draft isn't full of quality players, but you know, at least we could maybe field a team that's competitive. Listen, we don't have any linebackers. We only got two linebackers. You know, we don't have any linemen. You know, I mean, you know, yes, our young linemen are coming around in terms of defense. But it would be nice to get another big offensive lineman. And by the way, have you remembered that we don't have any friggin' running backs either? You know, we don't have any running backs either. You know, so I mean, listen, the Jets are in some serious trouble, Mike. And you know, the cheapest way really is the draft because you know a lot of those dollars are capped out with draft picks. So I don't know, man. I say get rid of this guy. He's a cancer for this team.
Absolutely. I mean, and if the best I can get is the 31st and the 34th pick, I'll take it. But
right.
if you could give me one of your cornerbacks, an NFL-ready player, may not be the same caliber as Revis, but could be better than Kyle Wilson.
But wait a minute, Kyle Wilson's not that bad. Kyle Wilson is gets a bad rap, and you know what? You said it yourself earlier. The Jets secondary wasn't bad this year. It was the strength of the team.
No,
you know, so
I agree. But I still don't think he's that good.
All Rex Ryan did since he's been with the Jets is draft secondary players. That's it. He's got a slew of them. We do have some good secondary, and they try to emulate Revis. At least we had that, you know, so that a lot of those guys played with him, and they try to emulate him. You know, listen, what we need is some pass rusher. We have not been able to put any pressure on a quarterback for years. You know, we're finally getting some productivity out of our two young defensive linemen. We need more strength there. Listen, in my opinion, this draft has to give us a couple of good defensive players, wherever they are, linebackers, defensive line, whatever, ready to start. And we got to get a top-notch, you know, every play, every down running back. We need another running back. What's going on with Sean Green? Did I read something the other day that says that he might not be back with the team too?
Yeah, I don't think he'll be back with the team. He's a free agent. Why would he be back with the team? You think the Jets going to spend big money on this guy? This guy thinks he deserves big money. He's terrible. He's soft. He's not getting big money. Well, I don't think he's going to be back with the team.
This team is in trouble. This team is Sean Green. Remember Lamont Jordan?
Yes.
All right, I loved Lamont Jordan, and the Jets
too.
let him go, and he ended up petering out. You know, that was a guy. I look at Sean Green like him. You know, when the Jets had a chance, when the Vikings had to get rid of Chester Taylor, I prayed that we would get Chester Taylor. Chester Taylor goes someplace else, Peters out. I mean, running backs they are a dime a dozen, and that's what people refer to them as. But the Jets need a stud. We need a stud running back for our offense to work. If we're going to be stuck with what's his face, Sanchez another year, we need to give him a running back or two. And by the way, you laugh at me. You keep laughing at me about Tebow. I don't see him racing to leave this team, and I don't see any other teams racing to pick him up.
No, it's not his choice to leave the team. The Jets will, I think the Jets will eventually get rid of him because, number one, I think they're close to signing David Garrard.
Why?
I really do.
Why?
Why?
Well, he's 36 years old. Why do you sign David Garrard?
Who is going to back up Mark Sanchez? Who's going to give him a run for his money?
What happened to the kid we liked from Alabama?
He's not that good. I know you're an Alabama guy, but he's not that good.
Well, is Gerard? He's never even played a solid year. He's a big doofus. He's a runner. He can wing the ball. He can wing the ball, but so can Tebow. Tebow can wing the ball too.
No. This guy, listen. Don't compare David Gerard to Tim Tebow.
David Gerard hasn't played.
Awful throwing the ball. He's not accurate at all. David Gerard has proven he's been this guy has thrown for over 3,600 yards.
He hasn't played in 2 years, Mike, and he hasn't played a full season in what, 7?
So you would start Tim Tebow over David Gerard if you had them both on your team?
I would take I don't want another injury. I don't want another injury-plagued player. I don't take David Gerard. Listen, this guy was worked out by at least a half a dozen teams over the last 2 years. He wasn't able to be picked up by any of them. Why? The Jets would sign him only for money. Tim Tebow, listen, I'm not saying Tim Tebow is a quarterback, all right? I'm not. But I would keep Tim Tebow as a tight end, as long as Tebow's willing to do that. He's not. That's the problem with Tim Tebow. But no team is interested in him. He might not have another choice. Maybe the Jets keep him. I don't know. But not David Gerard. There's got to be a better solution out there for the New York Jets other than David Gerard. I'm sorry. And no disrespect to Gerard because I used to like him. At one point, I thought that, he would make a good fit with the Jets. But not now. Not at 36 years old.
There's nobody out there. There's nobody out there.
Then you take
Who are you going to, Matt Moore?
Well, then take your chances with the kid. Listen, take your chances with him. Well,
you're not going to want that. I mean, there's nobody out there. You got Matt Moore. They even talked about bringing Brady Quinn. You really want Brady Quinn to come to the Jets? And Tebow's going to go. They're going to let the guy go because Tim Tebow is not going to be a tight end. He has no desire to be a tight end.
Then you know what? Then you sign a rookie quarterback like this kid from Arkansas. He could throw the ball. And what about the kid from Georgia? Isn't he eligible this year, or are they anticipating him going in early?
I thought it was next year.
Okay.
I wasn't sure. Okay, listen. Do I want to draft a quarterback this year? Yes, but
there's no good quarterback.
Later rounds. There's nobody really standing out. And I understand about the kid from Arkansas. He's got a good arm and everything.
Mallory. What's his name? Mallory.
Impressive at the combine. But you second round, third round, maybe you draft a quarterback.
Yeah, but
right now you got to concentrate on defense.
Yeah, but generally, I know there's exceptions to the rule, but generally a second or third round draft pick for a quarterback, unless it's an early second round. Again, hey, there you go. If you end up with the 49ers 34th pick and the 32nd and 34th pick or 31st and 34th pick, there you go. Maybe you luck out and you get a kid like the kid from Arkansas in one of those slots. Maybe you do. Maybe you hit a home run in the draft, and you go for that. But you can't waste your money with a guy like Gerard. You can't. You're better off taking your chance with Mick Johnson or whatever.
McElroy.
Yeah, McElroy. with McElroy, But I mean, the only thing that bothers me about him is he seems like he's made out of paper mache or something. But listen, don't be surprised if you see your idol Mark Sanchez have another good year, And there was a big poll question on ESPN earlier in the week. Who's got a worse quarterback situation, the New York Jets or the Oakland Raiders? And I think the Jets do because the Raiders at least have the kid that was from the Bengals. He wasn't a bad quarterback.
Carson Palmer?
Yeah.
I mean, he's okay. He's another USC quarterback, which really don't fare too well in the NFL. But, the Jets definitely have – listen, I'll take Carson Palmer over. You want to trade Oakland? I'll trade you right now. You can have Sanchez. Give me Palmer. There's no doubt that we have the worst situation right now.
I would not be surprised if Sanchez ends up on a team like Oakland at some point because he's a California guy, and I don't know. But
right now we're stuck with him. That's the bottom line, and you need a backup quarterback. That backup quarterback is not going to be Tim Tebow. You saw throughout the whole year, you had opportunities to put Tebow in, who was quoted your second-string quarterback, right? He wouldn't do it. Why? Because they watch him in practice. He's awful. He's terrible.
But you also had the stupidest offensive coordinator on the planet calling the shots.
Absolutely. But Ryan he makes that final decision. And what did he say? After watching to Sanchez throw interception after interception and then butt fumble, he still wouldn't go to Tim Tebow.
That's because he's got a tattoo of Sanchez, all right? And he knows
there you go.
and he
Yes,
knows
tattoo.
he knows.
I mean, come on. Listen, Tim Tebow will not be in the NFL this year. He will be going to Canada to play quarterback. That's it.
Good.
Not even the Jaguars want him.
Listen, man, all I'm saying is I don't dispute that, but McElroy is a better opportunity and a better choice than stupid David Girard. I'm sorry.
Okay, then who's your third-string quarterback? You still got to get a third. I'll give you McElroy as your backup. Need a third-string quarterback. They
never suited up anybody anyway last year. They got what's his name that poses as a third-string guy when
McElroy.
Not McElroy. No.
They dress him, not dress him. But you still need a third string.
Who was the guy?
Somebody to go to the practice squad.
Curly.
Who do you take? David Girard, Matt Moore, or do you take Brady Quinn? That's what I'm saying.
Listen,
you got nobody.
They draft somebody. You draft somebody.
Okay, draft somebody. I'll give you the first 3 picks, 9, 31. If we do trade Revis and we get 31 and 34, so we got 9, 31, and 34, right? Those 3 should concentrate on defense. We have no linebackers whatsoever. Okay.
David.
Harris.
I like David Harris.
Okay, he's solid. He's not. You don't see him going to Pro Bowls. He's a solid guy.
No,
but he's still got no linebacking help.
Well, what's going to happen with the Falcons just cut Abraham. I know he was injury prone. The Giants cut a couple of their players that would fit in with the Jets situation. The problem is money. It's going to boil down to money.
Right? Listen, we went from 20 over to 8 or 9 or 10 under. Okay, so now we're in the right direction. Yeah, we need help. Okay, let me throw some names out at you right now. How about the linebacker from Dallas, Anthony Spencer? Okay, he's a free agent. That's somebody I wouldn't mind having on my team. Look at him. Okay, Steven Jackson, running back, Rams. He's a free agent.
Too much money.
He's a free agent.
He's going to want too much money. The Michael Turner. He might be an affordable guy. Michael Turner from the Falcons, he was just cut. He might be that second guy, that older player that can that you can give the ball to. They're gonna put a lot of that emphasis on their running game on the young kid that they had last year if they let Sean Green go. Listen, they need a quarterback for the future. What are they doing? Are they going to roll the dice and wait till next year's draft? I don't know if they're going to get well, chances are they are going to get a better pick next year than they got this year, but there'll be better quarterbacks available next year. But listen, if they make the trade and they end up with 3 number 1 draft picks or close to 3 number 1 draft picks, that second round was similar to when they picked Browning Nagel, who I loved and just never got a good chance, because he was the first pick in the second round. And yeah, you're right. But it all has to stem off of them dumping Revis, and I think they need to. I think they need to dump him. And listen, we're in trouble, man. There's no question about it.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. We're in trouble. I tell you what, I'm gonna have more fun this year watching the Mets than I will the Jets. That's how bad I think this is gonna be. And you know what? Next year, you got to get rid of Rex Ryan. You should have cleaned house the whole way. Clean everybody out, but no, he kept Rex. That's the problem.
And he gave him more. Right there. And he gave him more juice. He gave him more power. And you know what? Isaac wasn't the guy either. Listen, I said it a few minutes ago. The Jets are the laughing stock of professional sports. They really are. There's no question about it. It's sickening. I can't we talk about something else? You know.
This is what we do. We talk Jets.
Yeah, it's
unfortunate, but this is our team. We're stuck with them. And like you said, we need a lot of help. Linebackers, offensive skill positions.
We didn't even talk about.
We're going to lose Puha. We're going to lose DeVito. DeVito's probably going to be.
DeVito's gone.
I mean, it's terrible.
DeVito's going to fit perfectly in a Patriots uniform. DeVito's gone. Poo is like poo. The guy never has played a full year. Yes, he's a stopper in there, but I think DeVito should have been a guy they kept. He was a blue collar guy. He's going to be perfect with the Patriots. You hit that one on the head. I bet you anything he goes with them. But there's another position we haven't mentioned that we don't have anyone with. That's receiver. They're begging Santiago Holmes to rework his contract, and there's another all about me player.
Yeah, that's going to happen.
Yeah, he's another. It's all about me player. Rex Ryan. It's his fault. He brought all of the head cases that are all about themselves to that team. The Jets are filled with guys that think only about themselves. Holmes and Revis, they if there was a way to dump Holmes, I'd get rid of that piece of garbage too. He's not a number one receiver. They paid him buku dollars for, and he's a midget. And the injury that he got this year is going to haunt him. I predict he doesn't even make it through a full year again, ever.
I agree. Yeah, he's not a number one. He's a head case. He's a me guy. I don't see him renegotiating his contract.
We're in trouble. We're in trouble. And look, you look across the river, and the Giants, they're getting rid of this guy. Yeah, they're getting rid of that guy. But you know what? Those bastages are going to be just as solid as they were.
Let me ask you this. Okay, they got rid of Ahmad Bradshaw. What do you think about him?
Bradshaw was a crybaby. There was an issue. There was a conflict of personalities between Bradshaw and the coach, right? But there was also that injury thing. He had that weird foot problem all the time. But
that's always a lingering injury with him. It's the foot and the ankle and the foot.
But
he's a guy. He's 26 years old. When he's healthy, he's explosive.
And he fumbles.
But that's the problem.
No.
He was pretty good. It's the kid, the rookie that they picked up last year, that Wilson. He fumbled.
Yeah,
the
but
first
remember,
game. He was in the doghouse right away.
Remember, Ahmad Bradshaw improved holding on to the football. When he first came with the Giants, he fumbled all the time. But you're right. That is a good player for the Jets. He would fit in with the Jets. But again, not as their every down, grunt of a running back. They don't have one. They need one. Now, if they were able to keep Sean Green and they sprinkle in a Bradshaw, I like that.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, because Green is not an every down back. If you platoon the two of them, yeah, that's fine. I'll accept that, and that'll be an improvement.
Yeah, no, that'll be you see, now here we are sitting here doing a radio show, and we're not getting paid the big bucks the Jets brass do, and we just figured out a solution for running back for the Jets that wouldn't be that expensive. I don't think that Green is going to be asking for anything outrageous. His numbers just don't back it up. Bradshaw might, but maybe being cut by the Giants is a slap in the face reality check for him. So maybe he does want to shove it up the Giants, and play for the Jets. But there's a solution right there. But now all we have to worry about is quarterback, defensive line, offensive line, receivers, and linebackers. So other than that, we're pretty solid.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, did I sprinkle in special teams? Because we had the worst special teams that we've ever had in the history of the team.
You're not kidding.
We're in trouble, bro. We're in trouble.
It's bad. It's just bad all the way around. I mean, and I'm looking at like a lot of the free agents, like you're talking about receiver. I mean, I'd love to have a guy like Mike Wallace from Pittsburgh, but you know what? Too much money. Victor Cruz isn't signed yet, but that's not going to happen. Dwayne Bowe, well, he's probably getting franchise tagged by Kansas City now that they got Alex Smith.
Who do we franchise?
Greg Jennings. I mean, Wes Welker. I mean, but it's just not going to happen.
No. You see, they can't go. Wes Welker's a great receiver, but we don't have a big receiver. We have the one guy, but he can't catch consistently. The guy from Georgia Tech, he can't catch consistently. He got beat up with an injury.
You got to re-sign Braylon Edwards. You need Braylon Edwards. There's no doubt about it.
I love Braylon Edwards.
There's no doubt about that. We need him.
And we'll get him cheap. And he's good for Sanchez. If they don't sign him, they're totally please. But I don't know. I got Ajita now. I got Ajita. You know, it's sickening, but the timing is perfect. We're wrapping it up here. On this day in New York sports history, Mike, a couple of interesting things happened. One of them I'm laughing at because after we both get sick talking about the Jets, one of the things is going to be the Jets, right?
The Jets.
But in 1951, on this day, March 2nd in 1951, St. John's Bob Zolik scores 65 points to lead the Redmen to 105-61 ass whooping over St. Peter's, and it happened to have been the first time in the 43-year history at that time of St. John's that they scored over 100 points. That kind of surprised me a little bit with the history of that club in college ranks. On this day in 1962, same year I was born, Wilt Chamberlain scores the NBA record 100 points to lead the Philadelphia Warriors to a 169-147 win over the New York Knickerbockers. I love that stuff. And on this day in 1981, Leon Hess, the last good owner of the New York Jets, he acquired Townsend Martin's 25% interest in the Jets, increasing his own stake to 75%. The only other co-owner at the time was one Mrs. Helen Dillon, who retained 25%. That's what happened on this day in New York sports history. Mikey, you succeeded in making me nauseous thinking about the Jets and also the lack of season I have to look forward to with the Mets. Do you have any final thoughts on this on this weekend?
Let's say this. I'll change the subject on the final thoughts. Two quick things. Manti Te'o, his stock has plummeted. I don't even see him going in the first round anymore. The guy is too small, and now he's proven to be too slow. He won't be a factor in the NFL. And the other thing I wanted to say, a quick golf story. I don't know if you saw the news yesterday that the number one golfer in the world, Rory McIlroy, quit because of a toothache.
It's a wisdom tooth, though, man.
Whatever. You know what? Man up. If hockey players play without teeth, they go out, they get cut, they get stitched up, they come back. Football players, Ronnie Lott's cutting off his finger playing a game. Man up. That's why I hate golf.
Yeah, but you can't compare golf. Come on, man. They're lucky. Hey, listen, they won't even go on a golf course unless they're color coordinated. So come on, man. That doesn't surprise you. You can't compare Ronnie. You bring up Ron Lott cutting off his finger so he didn't have to miss a game. You talk about the hockey players getting their teeth knocked out. Great points, but come on, man. Golf. Hey, listen, I have a hard time even calling. I hate to say this because I know Tiger Woods would disagree, but they're not even really athletes. I think race car drivers are more athletes than golf players. Golf is for old guys like us to play, to still stay active. Come on, man.
That's it. Go out there, smoke my cigar, and play a few rounds. That's it.
And by the way, the golfers are smoking other than cigars. They're the number one pot smoking sport. Did you read
really?
that?
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. I was asked a trivia question. Somebody asked me a sports trivia question. They said, "What professional sport has the most pot smokers in it?" And you know what my answer was? Well, what would your answer have been if I didn't tell you that?
NBA?
Right, that was my answer. NBA, they don't even test for it. I think you're allowed to bone up before the games in the NBA. But I said the NBA. I said the same thing. But no, golf. Apparently, it's rampant with golf players, and a lot of the golfers say that it helps them concentrate. And they said you go to a professional golf course and go into one of the bathrooms on the course, like the porta potties. They said it reeks. Half of them go in there and bone up, man, during the games and stuff, during the set. So amazing stuff. My final thought is, being a Met fan, I really think that we should focus 110% on the youth movement. I would rather take our lumps and finish the worst team in the league and get some major league experience. I agree with you, Mike, about the dollar situation, and I know that's an important part of professional sports, but just putting my dream hat, my dream fan hat on, I'd much rather lose with the young kids and see what we got for the future than having guys with pacemakers and everything else on our team with heart monitors and with the Jets, it's going to be a bad season. We're not even at the draft pick. We're at the combine with having tryouts with 36-year-old has-been quarterbacks who you think should be our best thing. We're having 28-year-old female place kickers who's never kicked a football in her life trying out. I mean, it ain't looking good, and it's not going to look any better. So I hope we got some good stuff to talk about next week, my man.
I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will. But listen, before we start talking next week, make sure you have a big glass of brioche next year when we start talking about the Jets.
Oh man, I tell you what, I'm gonna have to do more than that. A case of Tums. That's
there you go.
Before every game. But anyway, this is Billy C. I'm joined here with Brooklyn Mikey. We'll talk to you next week. Ciao, baby.